All right, I want to talk to y'all about group therapy. I'll share a few surprising benefits I've noticed for myself, and then secretly, I'm hoping I might put you on if you're on the fence. But in general, a lot of people lack environments to practice relational work. If you're like me, most of these are maybe like work, family, certain friend groups, and they're not necessarily the go-to place to start, trying risky relational work. And a few years back, I decided to do it. I got convinced by a book and I think some notes online, but I wasn't really understanding what to expect, and it surprised me in a lot of ways. So I thought I was going to walk into, a sense of community and a brotherhood type of deal, and iron sharpen iron, and that's true. But what I was surprised by were a lot of smaller things. And the first surprising benefit is not just from relating to stories and experiences that guys were sharing, but from the smaller relational dynamics that were happening in real time. Things that made my bells go off when someone would share and we kind of sit there in a moment of silence, and then this person started to fidget and said, I feel so weird and guilty about sharing. I feel like I'm taking up space here. I'd be like, huh? Wait, I don't feel that way. That's so, Or someone else, he would open the share by saying, like, I feel the need to speak right now because I feel awkward for not going yet. And this made my head spin as I recognized a voice from my own head in someone else. A certain self-talk that I thought was something I dealt with alone. That made me like weird or off. This internal monologue that I wasn't sure that other people had to. I was like, wow, wait, are we all dealing with this? And, a lot of our day-to-day, let's say an office, for example, we don't necessarily share these things with each other. We may look at a meeting where people share, present, talk, and doing so quite effortlessly. And then my internal monologue is going like, dang, I have no idea what this is about. What initiative? Where did this come from? Crap, I should say something. I've been silent for way too long. Okay, just smile. Don't smile too much. Crap, I missed it. I should have said something right there. Now I look like an idiot. Oh, no. And, you kind of know by jokes and memes that this might be going on in your head, but it's hard to, like, actually talk about it with people. And the work environment is sanitized from this. It's a lot of very performative, fake type of thing that's going towards goals and shareholder value and whatnot, all the meme type stuff. But, I do have friends. That sounded like a loner. I do have a lot of good friends in which I can be way more freely myself around, but it's rare that we get into these more vulnerable conversations. We much rather goof around for the time being. But in these group settings, these dynamics and the vulnerability is handled with care. And it lit me up to be able to relate to other guys that at first, deemed to have it all put together and probably weren't flawed. But that these guys were vulnerable, and it literally made me jump for joy internally. I'm not alone in this. It was as if people were finally being honest around me for the first time, and that I felt less shame about this voice in my own head. And if you could relate to that, I'm going to go out on a limb here to say that if you're watching this, maybe your childhood wasn't as pleasant. Maybe your dad wasn't emotionally present and pleasant at all. And maybe you view what it means to be a man is to be very tough, dude. Don't be soft. We're the opposite of soft. Vulnerability is not a vocab, son. You need to have it figured out, and I don't want to hear if you don't. Like, you keep that to yourself. You hear me? I mean, that's how it was for me. Like, I rarely ever saw my dad be vulnerable. It was always covered with this aggressive machismo. Like, I was never modeled him coming up to me saying, like, man, I wanted to apologize. I really came on way too aggressive and hostile right there. Like, I'm so sorry. I actually had a moment earlier today where I was really scared and I didn't know how to handle that in the moment, and it spilled over at the dinner table. That was not cool. I'm so sorry for that. I never got that. Like, I can count on one hand the amount of times I've seen my dad express himself in that way, and it's rare because it sticks with you. It stuck with me to see that happen. But in general, that was not my my modeling of what it meant to be a man. And now some of the most mature, manly stuff that I've witnessed is a dude opening up and sharing vulnerably. Like, that is hard. You could feel that in the room, in your bones. And then to the contrary, when someone glosses over their feelings and tries to like act tough, it's easier to spot that maybe they're scared to feel into what's really going on for them in that moment. So this first benefit, really, I think it boils down to like not feeling alone, especially with the things that might be rumbling around in your head where you don't quite know if it's just you that makes you a little off and weird, and you look at yourself in the mirror at night and you be like, you damn idiot, I know you got to figure this out by yourself. But it's not. It helps to talk about it vulnerably with people. And the second one is I found quite mind-blowing, is improved emotional expression through, I believe, the paradigm of nonviolent communication. And it's set up in a way where essentially what we do is someone would share, and then we'd popcorn around saying like, hey, when you said this, I felt X, Y, and Z in my like chest, for example, and I just wanted to say yada, yada, yada. So we build upon the feeling rather than moving into like jargon, extraction, or abstraction and judgment. And instead we relate to facts, feelings, and what I may need in the moment. I didn't know I had needs in conversations. That's crazy to me too. But for example, someone would share something, and then another person would respond by saying like, hey, oof, when you said that, I felt a certain melting in my chest, and I felt good. Like, it was really nice to hear you share what you've been going through and how you're working through it. Like, I feel happy for you, and I'd like to like give you a hug or something. But another one would be, man, when you said that, I feel a little uptight in my shoulders. I feel this tension that maybe you're still holding on to something. And I'm curious, like, how are you handling this? Like, are you okay? And by this, we're really staying present in our feelings and in our body, and relating in that way is completely topped my paradigm, because I would be so quick to move into like thinking about a good curated response. How can I like move on to a smooth conversation? How can I like, this shot me out of my feeling state in a sense. But doing this in a safe container actually helps build a skill for relating more effectively. And I chuckle because I never knew you could kind of like build a skill around effective communication. Guess we're all learning, But these were just two benefits I wanted to share out of many more that come with like this intentional group work. I'm very much still into it, and I intend to do a lot more of it. And just to note that it's also very triggering sometimes. Like, part of me hates being vulnerable, or will come to a topic that I can feel like the shakes in me and my heart pounding. But I've learned that this is a really good indicator of like a growth edge. Finding your edge. Where do you stay in comfort, and maybe seeking safe, containerized like discomfort? Like, these groups provide that, and there's a lot of value in that I've found. And I've seen guys push through, some uncomfortable moments in which you can see the blocks and the walls come up. And then on the other end, ironically, is a deeper connection and relief. Another surprising thing is, maybe like tying it back to the initial examples, is when others shared that they may have felt like awkward or guilty in those moments of sharing, nobody thought in that same way about their shares that they did. Like, it was actually very much welcomed, and it made us feel way closer to another human being through vulnerability. Like the voice in your own head narrating how much of a pinhead you are is not truth. And when you get the feedback from somebody in a container like that, it's soothing to be like, oh, I've been so alone in this war with that head of mine that I welcomed that vulnerability. Like, it's really uncomfortable, but it's good to kind of like improve that relational dynamic with people. So if you relate to this, we probably didn't have a lot of this modeled growing up, right? It was usually very rigid, maybe stamped out. You didn't see dad say that he was sorry or felt scared before. But these new moments you can get out of these groups, those are registered as new experiences in your nervous system. They are laying a new foundation of trust and safety that a lot of us rarely had to begin with. And you will subconsciously be able to like pull strength from this. It's strange that when I'm out and about, doing my day-to-day stuff, I can, a few times where I've come into a pinch, and funny enough, it's true, I'll think of the group and the guys, and I pull strength from that to think, if I were to bring this to them, like how would that be handled there? And how would I feel after sharing this and getting the support? And you can pull strength from that. Who knew? It's crazy what a healthy family would have done if I wasn't like kneecapped. But you can rebuild that, So if you're stuck, or if you're on this journey and maybe you feel stuck, you want to find groups, maybe groups with more intention. Maybe, we all feel lonely, but if you want to find like-minded people, community, this is something I definitely recommend. And there are many groups out there that are free and accessible, many different flavors of the 12-step programs, therapy groups, women's groups, men's groups. I've tried a few. Maybe go about, find what works for you. And my hope for you is that when you go and try, that you'll be surprised at the relatability of the things within you that you thought you were so alone with. I'm really curious to hear your takes. Let me know if you do try it. And if you are in group, I would love to hear what you found surprisingly or your benefits out of it. And we'll chat next time. Peace.